Hello. I love Warhammer. If you couldn't tell. For the new people here, hello. Hi, I'm Phil, and I'm a Warhammer addict. I love the setting and the lore, it being one of the most badass, bubblegum chewing, jaw mewing, big dick energy settings ever conceived. I love it to bits. The rich characters that interact with the fleshed out factions, ultimately progressing a grim and dark storyline about the inevitable and gruesome death of humanity. Don't worry, you'll get lore eventually. I just can't get enough. But all this is really only to support the tabletop game, which is GW's most profitable venture out of everything that they make. So I'm here today to explain away how to get into the tabletop game of Warhammer. Also, just recently my computer's CPU fucking keeled over, so I'm on a little Asus laptop whittling away at the video until it's done, so yeah, sorry for the poor audio quality and in advance. Thank you for clicking on the video, it means a lot to me. Starting from basics, Warhammer is a tabletop game, which means that there is a game that uses miniatures to represent units or characters that battle on the top of a table. It uses 6-sided dice and a tape measure in inches to interact with the rule set and can be played competitively, casually, or narratively. The standard board size is 44 inches by 30 inches for games of Combat Patrol or Spearhead, I think, and 44 inches by 60 inches for any other games up to or until past 2,000 points. For games of 3,000 points or above, around that sort of area, the board size increases, accommodating for the increased number of miniatures to 44 by 90 inches. Additionally, to really enjoy the game, terrain is another big part of Warhammer, as it allows for units to survive for longer, which means more gaming and more interesting plays. Competitively, there are table layouts that are predetermined and that are set up in tournaments for players to use. However, the terrain itself can be whatever you want. I personally don't play competitively very often and only really play for fun. But with competitive games, or when you're playing for objectives and points, you usually will see better and more interesting plays that can really make a game challenging and fun. The game itself also receives frequent balances and points adjustments with the new Meta Watch and balanced data slates every season. Separate between games of Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40,000, the balancing of the game revolves around a points system, which represents the units and their enhancements. The value of specific units influenced by this data slate fluctuate every season, leading to seasons where certain units are cheaper and so are better to field in armies, as they are able to perform really well for their cost, and seasons where those same units are rarely seen on the competitive field, as they become so expensive that bringing them would really restrict the amount of other units your army can field, and so it would be way better to have more units than that unit. It's a tricky teeter between armies every season. However, if you don't play competitive games very often, it doesn't matter too much, as at the end of the day, it's just a game between you and your friend, and you can use your big boy words to say, I love Terminators, so I'm bringing just Terminators. Open play is really just bringing your armies to a table and dicking around with the rule set, and it's the game type I most often play, as me and my opponent just say fuck it, we ball, and have fun. The reason I explained the whole competitive gameplay and point system is that if you're getting in the hobby, a fair few amount of people are a tad more inclined to the kind of high-stakes, sweaty gameplay which competitive is very reliant on, as well as the wording of rules and exact lists of armies, which new players not too familiar with. This can be pretty intense for people who are just starting off in the tabletop, but it is what Age of Sigmar and 40k games lean more towards. Hopefully, with this covered, now I can get into the meat and potatoes of Warhammer, and the reason why I love it so much. The rules and the balancing are very important, as without it, there wouldn't be a game, but the miniatures themselves are a very important part of Warhammer too. Games of Warhammer use miniatures of certain base sizes to comprise squads of certain amounts of models. Some squads can field up to 20 miniatures, and some can only be a single man. But at the end of the day, these are your soldiers, and even getting them ready for a game is a hobby in itself. No shit, a big part of miniature wargaming is the miniatures. But really, it's one of my favorite parts of Warhammer, as the miniatures produced by Games Workshop are fantastic and an absolute joy to assemble, kit bash, pose, and paint. There's enough interest around the internet and enough tutorials, but if you guys want to see me paint something up, I'd love to, actually. So yeah, I like painting miniatures. If you guys want to see me paint up my miniatures, leave a comment on what model I should paint. Within reason. No, I'm not getting a Warlord Titan, but yeah. Miniatures vary from faction to faction and game to game, all having different aesthetics, colors, weapons, and bases for every artist. In competitive games, miniatures have to have at least 3 colors on all models, but in my opinion, miniatures can look however you want them to look. But games are always better when you have a fully painted and based army with fully painted terrain and boards, because of the whole theater of mind that Dungeons & Dragons does, except instead of one guy, it's a Necron horde with unkillable Lich Guard that really suck to deal with, because no matter how many times I shoot it with a Vindicator, they just keep coming back. What the fuck? Most armies in the game Knights have an easy value box of miniatures that really help jumpstart players into their games, being called Combat Patrols in Warhammer 40,000 and Spearheads in Age of Sigmar. These value bundles do not come with rules, plastic glue, or paints. You'll need to get them yourself. But they are fantastic ways of starting an army. Fuck, even I'm trying to get the new CSM Combat Patrol, but still, the thing that really matters the most to play Warhammer is having the miniatures. So, let's say you have a combat patrol that you did up yourself, which in that case, hey, good job, they look really fucking good. Probably. You also have yourself a good old 20-pack of dice, a tape measured in inches, and a fat, juicy new codex for your brand new army. You've looked at all the rules and are already coming up with devious schemes to undermine and defeat your opponent. And after looking at your poor whittled army with no board to claim for themselves, you've also decided to take some time to make a nifty board with a similar theme to the bases of your miniatures. While getting the board set up, you also passed your local game store, please support them, and picked up some nice looking terrain bunkers, walls, tactical barrels, mounds, hills, and craters. And now, your good old Combat Patrol 44 by 30 inch board is painted, decorated, and ready for action. What's next? Well, all that's left is to play the game, and hopefully learn from your experience and the experience of the countless other people who talk about Warhammer. Not to toot my own horn, but maybe check out some of my other videos to help you out. You can try to expand your army list and include other models and units that hopefully you can bring if they aren't stuck in Legends, Landspeeder my beloved, and accumulate a nice healthy force to crush your foes. But hey, you're now playing the tabletop and hopefully enjoying yourself. Congratulations. Thank you very much for watching. If you made it to the end, please let me know in the comments below by saying which army you'd collect and why, and I might just make a video about them. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe to stay tuned for the happenings of this channel, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. And there's no fucking way.
Rock and roll McDonald's! Rock and roll McDonald's!